now going to record a short video on how to build up one of these motor mounts with the motor, just from all the various parts. So to start with, you want to take your motor mount base plate, which has got these three M2 sized bolt holes drilled in it. And you want to take your motor, which will come like this, and your Allen key, and you want to loosen the two grub screws that keep the motor together. And then the base comes off that. And you'll notice that these three holes here line up with these three holes here. So you want to take your magnetic screwdriver, which is over here, and you want to take your screws, and the first one should just drop through like that. And then if you just line it up carefully, you should just be able to press it through like that. And once it's through, you want to take one of these little M2 nuts. It's fiddly, but you just want to get that on there and give it a couple of turns to keep it in place. Now the second and the third M2 bolts might take a bit more force just to get those through the holes. And if you start turning the bolt, it will start biting into the fiberglass a little, which does help it go through. And again, if you take one of these little M2 bolts, or nuts I should say, and just get that on there a couple of turns to keep it in place, because they fall out easily if you're not careful, and that's annoying once you got them in there, because it's fiddly. As you can see, it is a bit fiddly. Get that all the way through. Finally I've got it on. And the third one hopefully won't be as tricky as that. Again, just get it with your magnetic screwdriver and then pop it in there and start turning, and you should find that again it just starts coming out the other side like that. And then get your final nut just on there. If you had a little hex driver for these nuts, you might make your job easier, but I haven't got one of those. You want to just spin them up by hand, make sure all of these bolts are all the way through. Just turn them and apply a bit of pressure and they'll just pop through. And then tighten these up just by your fingers, and then just give them one last tighten with these. They don't have to be very tight, and you don't want to use the thread lock here. There shouldn't be much in the way of vibration, so they shouldn't untighten themselves, and if you do use thread lock you may never get them off. So that's that bit done. And then what you want to do is you want to take this and you want to take these spacers, these 1 cm, 10mm spacers. And you can just pop those through like that, and then again put these little nylon M3 this time nuts on there just to keep those in place. And again, just like that. And you can tighten these up just with your fingers, they don't need to be that tight. You definitely don't want to use any thread lock or any glue here, and if you ever tighten them you will break them. Then you get these shorter bolts and you put those in there like that. And And same again on the other side. You can use a screwdriver to tighten these up if you want, but don't use too much force, otherwise again you'll just damage the threads. These nylon parts are what's supposed to break if you do have a crash, so that everything else will be fine. That's the idea. And finally you want to get these longer bolts and just run those through from the top. And then get your nuts on the other side. There we go. So now it's just a question of fitting the motor, which isn't very tricky at all. Just feed it in through like that, pop it in place, and then tighten up your grub screws. And you just want those just pinched up. You don't want to use too much force, and you definitely don't want to use thread lock. If you use thread lock here, you'll never get the thing undone, and that would be disastrous. And that is your finished motor mount. And if I just use this bit of spare carbon fibre, you can see it just slides on like that, and then you just tighten up these 4 nuts on the bottom. And you can use a screwdriver for the last little bit here. There we have it, completed motor mount. It's not coming off, it's not going anywhere. There we go.